Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Edain Mod for Battle for Middle-earth to the Rise of the Witch King as we play on the Fornos map as Arnor. Now, you may be scrambling your brains thinking, Arnor? Well, that's not one of the factions on the list. Well, is this an extra mod, a glitch, a hack? Well, it's kind of a mix of all three, for however many I said. Basically, Arnor is a sub-faction that belongs to Gondor when you play on any Arnor named map. So, for example, you're going to play on, as you can see here, Fornost. If a Gondor is one of the playable factions, you will get a Arnor instead of you'll be playing against or with or as a faction of Arnor, not Gondor. Because, you know, the land, it's kind of appropriate. And obviously, if you see that we've got a little camp glitch here, I'm not going to abuse, can't really abuse it that much on this map because you only get 3 extra build plots for blacksmiths. So yeah, I haven't abused it that much by getting extra townhouses because townhouses are the resource building you really want more than blacksmiths, in my opinion, with Gondor/Arnor, which I'm just going to keep calling them Arnor. I'm not going to go between Gondor and Arnor because it's just too annoying and my throat's already very dead from trying to do this video several times on several different maps just talking about Arnor because going back on Arnor compared to Gondor, there are very few differences which I've already mentioned in the past, but I might as well go over them again. Firstly, with powers, we have Rebuild, Lone Tower, Horn of Gondor/Arnor, Horn of Formations of Arnor or Gondor, and the Summon Eagle allies. The rest of these powers are brand new, well, different. Arrow Volley compared to the Trebuchet. Originally, this was also included in the list of powers that were both used in Gondor and Arnor, but because they got the barrage of Trebuchets, Gondor no longer has Arrow Volley. But instead of getting Gandalf the White, because during the time of Arnor's reign, Gandalf was still Gandalf the Grey. And yes, we can get Gandalf the Grey, but we also now have the Bloodline of Numenor power, which I think is really strong and is well deserved of this tier. It gives all of our troops a health regen for a short time out of combat, and it's basically a permanent well everywhere for all your units. Yeah, it doesn't give you the extra replenishment of your troops, but because of the change to the wells, this power has turned from I would say 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10, must always get. It is too good to say no to. Then with Swords of Westerness, gives a unit immunities. This is probably one of the most useless powers next to the Magical Trees of Lothlorien. I managed to make it work once. That is it. That's the only time I managed to make it work. Swords of Westerness is deserving of this tier. I would probably make this 4 power points and make the attachment from the Shire 5 power points because it is better than 4 power points. I will say that this is better than 4 power points for an aggressive power. And then finally we have our version of Flood and our version of Summon Arnor. Not Summon Arnor, Summon Rohan. We have Summon Aid from Gondor, which gives us King Edain and help from Gondor and his troops from Gondor to help Arnor. Which isn't like with the beacon for Gondor. Again, Gondor is the faction that's received changes here, not Arnor. Arnor is just a sub-faction that exists inside the code for Gondor when you play as Arnor, well, when you play on an Arnor map. And that is it. That is all that we have compared to Gondor. Also, our units are different. Some of our heroes are different. As you can see here, we have some slightly different heroes. For example, we don't have a Pippin, we have a Carthian. We don't have a Denethor, we have a Malbeth. We still have Gandalf, but we don't have a Boromir, we have an Arvedui, and we don't have a Faramir, we have an Aranarth. And we don't have a Beregond, we have an Araphant. And each of these heroes, even though they're basically just parodies of each one for the faction, is what you'd think, but it's not that simple. Arvedui, yes, he's Boromir because he can be made the ring hero, but he's also not Boromir because all of his powers are unique to, well, unique. They don't represent Boromir in the slightest. He doesn't have Horn of Gondor. He doesn't have a experience buff. He doesn't have a final stand ability. He is completely new and not representative of good old Boromir in the slightest. And then again with the Faramir, with Arnor, he is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing like Faramir. Yes, he has some. He is a versatile hero because every faction needs a versatile hero. But with Arnor, he has two different paths to go down: the path of the exiled ranger, or the path of the bloodline of the king in exile. Yeah, just the king. And then we have Arathorn. Well, actually no, Malbeth is the closest to his counterpart Denethor because it's a very unique hero. He's always been kind of the same since he died in 3.8. Can't even make too many changes to him because let's face it, Malbeth and Denethor. Malbeth is more of a neutral, foreseeing character compared to Denethor, who's a bit mad, yeah, mad. That's the best representation I can give poor old Denethor. And then we have Arviduit, Arathant even, who is meant to represent Baragon, but again, has absolutely no... He has one ability that is a rebuild, I think. I think that might be actually linked to Arnor, but still. Arnor, but Arathant is completely different. He buffs all of our basic infantry and can give other just cool buffs, which are quite valuable, I must admit. You do not want to mess with Arathant. And we're just going to get the workers' tools. Obviously not going to get the settlers' tools because we don't have any settlements to upgrade. And also we have the stronghold of Imladris, which is our counterpart to the border stronghold of... what's their name? Oh, Dol Amroth. And obviously instead of Imrahil we have Glorfindel, and instead of the Knights of Dol Amroth we have the Glorfindel Windriders, which are both units that exist only, also in Imladris, but they were originally built for Arnor. Well, not built for Arnor, they were built in Arnor. Now with extra units we can move out and see if we can get our Linden troops. Now, in any normal circumstance, I recommend building, if you get an outpost, building a basic outpost, and if you get a... Oh, they've already found Gollum. That's not good. If you're ever against... if you're playing in a normal mode, not trying to go full out... how do they have Felwind? That's a tier 3... That's a tier 2 power. They haven't done anything. AI cheats... It's official. AI cheats. Oh well, we'll be fine. I am going to get some... I don't want to actually get... yeah, I'll get one unit of knights. I was kind of against making the building because Rudar Pikemen, but we do need to get it. It's still an important building to have. Just even some is good, better than none. Yeah, we just want to be spamming out our basic infantry right now. Because, as I said, we want Arathant, and Arathant is good at buffing our basic infantry. We don't want to go for our elites yet. We have really powerful late-game elites, like Gondor. But unlike Gondor, our ring hero actually buffs our elite troops. If we get him. Granted, if we find the ring again. But for some reason, whenever I play against an Angmar, I always find the ring very easily. I'm not sure why. It's always been a weird thing. There's still things here. I can't see anything. I'll turn the quality of the graphics up again, so I should be able to see things. Oh, well, let's get the Linden Watchtower quickly, which has been reduced to 500 resources, which is pretty good. Not 300, 500 even. And also, like Gondor, we have the Ranger Tents where we can get our Dunedain from, which is also a resource building. That change, it has been incorporated into Arnor. Same with some of the heroes being locked behind certain buildings. Arnor, for example, is normally locked behind the ranger camp. But because we're playing on a fortress map, we get him in the fortress. That's how it's always been. Now, they've got axe throwers attacking our gates, which for some reason can be attacked by ranged infantry, so we're going to get rid of them and destroy this obelisk. Oh, first already very... first something's really cutting at the back of my throat. It's probably because I've been talking for so long. Yeah, these knights are just going to help me rout out any of the enemy from coming too close. And Círdan, like with Imladris, is exactly the same as the Círdan of Imladris, because this is the original Círdan. Círdan originally, like Glorfindel, originates from Arnor, because Arnor existed when what's his name was before Imladris was made, and so they technically, yeah, yeah, that's basically it. I'm going to get all three of the Linden Guardians, which are reduced in cost thanks to townhouses, by the way. You can't get that with Imladris, which is why, once again, unlike with Gondor, Arnor is more elite focused to a degree. Because Gondor now only gets cost reductions for Tower Guard and Citadel Guard with their townhouses. Townhouses aren't paramount with Gondor, so elite troops of Gondor are not paramount. But definitely with Arnor, you want to be going for elite late game troops, because they are really, really good for you. And I mean really good. Let's get some pantries, because we're already running out of command points. Getting just a few lindens. And as you can see, exactly the same, but their abilities aren't locked behind certain restrictions, like with Imladris. Oh no, I'm thinking of original Imladris from the good old days of 3.8, where you had to get the upgrades from scholars. Oh, that takes me back. Yeah, the reason I decided to go on the Fornos map is because on a normal map, it's just so boring. It really is. Normal maps feel so boring right now for me in Edain, which is why I'm trying to make the transition to playing Total War again. I'm not saying I'm getting rid of the Edain Mod, Age of the Ring, just Battle for Middle-earth in general. I just need a break from it. I have been playing it for an incredibly long amount of time without any other game being played in the background. So yeah, that's going to be changed soon. I do want it. Probably this video and one more after it will be all I do. After that, I'll be making the change to Total War. So I've decided if I wanted to do 30 Days Total War Divide and Conquer, if I want to try the DCI Last Alliance mod, which looks really cool by the way. I have tried a few campaigns with it for a small amount of time, and I must say they are really fun. Get Arrowbody to get rid of those rangers. They're annoying. Oh, and there go my knights. Unless I can save them, unless I can save them, unless I can save them. Oh, oh, oh! Oh, he died. He died as he lived, running away from everything. It's sad when you say it like that. Let's close this gate so the enemy doesn't think it can just walk in. I hate it when the AI does that. They can perfectly split your attention and then just come out of nowhere with a full stack into your base without even looking. I've seen that more often than not. Oh, and of course, they've killed one of my units, and they've already got a plague. Oh, AI cheats. They are fun. That's why I feel less about Battle for Middle-earth, because I can't cheat as much as I can in Total War. Because the AI deserves it. Those punk-ass bitches. We have money. Let's get Arvedwy and Malbeth. Oh, at least we've got the Linden Guardians, though. We should probably get the Settlers' Tools as well for our Dunedain. Because, yeah, even though they're not getting... their cost isn't being reduced by the townhouses, the Dunedain spam on a normal map, I still think is really strong. And it's not because expanding is good. It's because Gondor build plots are so important to build diverse buildings. You can't go all eco. You can't go. You can't go all eco like Rohan can. You can't go just have one building that has all your recruitment units, because you have to have archers and swordsmen. But with Gondor, if you get the settlers tools, you do technically get your archers. But unless you build the archery range, because let's face it, 6 build plots, you want to have at least 1 barracks, 3 resource buildings. You need the marketplace. One of those resource buildings has to be a blacksmith, so you can get your so you can eventually get your what's the words for them? So you can get your balls. What's it called? So you can get your unit upgrades. Obviously, you're not getting fire arrows if you don't have an archery range, but let's face it, you've got Linden Guardians that don't use fire arrows, and Dunedain typically don't need fire arrows either. Gondor, I'd say, is the one faction that doesn't need their archers getting upgrades. Lothlorien is paramount. You must always get your upgrades for your units, because making them from good to insanely good is just a step too high to just pass out on. It's too good.
The forged blades are ready.
Good, we got forged blades, which should be quite cheap thanks to all the... Oh, we're not going to do it on them. That's pointless. Oh, yeah, another thing about Gondor. Don't bother upgrading your early tier infantry, which is another reason why you have to be constantly aware that Gondor can play several different play styles. My play style on any normal map would be going ranger spam, getting 4 settlers tools as quickly as possible in the marketplace to get the Dunedain from all the rangers from all your ranger tents. You want to be able to have 6 ranger tents as quickly as possible, spanned out across the map, to have them as cheap as possible, which I believe is around like 420. That's 180 resources you're saving per unit, and you're probably making that money. You're even going to make that money back because they're now resource buildings. Before, you had to build a ranger tent, you had to pay extra for it because it was only one building. You didn't get money from it, and you needed the townhouses to make them cheaper. You can go as Gondor as a full-on basic militia army with no upgrades with Denethor, because you can just go for the... Because as I said, with Denethor, you can just go straight into spamming out early infantry with his ability, which Malbeth, by the way, does not have. He does get the tax abatement ability, which is named something like he foresees bad weather, so you need to bring your resources in now. But yeah, his powers are not at all related to Denethor, which makes him unique and fun to use. I should get the Bloodline power because, yeah, the Bloodline power basically neuters Angmar. Because all that poison damage they deal over time against the units that they don't kill after you've beat them, instead of them being half-assed in strength, they're still in full capacity, able to just beat the living shit out of anyone that stands in your way. And by the way, my hero still not out there. And we have 5,000 resources. Again, we wouldn't have these resources on a normal map. That's why I'm doing it here. Because, yeah, unlike Isengard, Arnor and Gondor in general have very bad economy. Again, because of all the things you need to get. It makes it difficult to balance everything out perfectly. Because you can't ever get a perfect balance as Gondor. Gondor is not the kind of faction that has that perfect balance, which is what they're not meant to be. They're meant to be a diverse faction, which isn't seen in the movies because of the units like the fiefdoms and such. And things like the reigns of Aphelion. And yeah, I kind of just lost all the backing to that to the reasoning for that there. Oh, God, I'm a bit tired. And it's very warm today. Yesterday we had highest of 35 degrees, then a thunderstorm for some reason. And then we just kind of went back to heat.
Arnor must stand.
Oh, no, that's Durmoff. No, 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 no.
We must take the fight
Bad
to them.
Durmoff. Bad Durmoff. Go away.
Knock this place down.
But yeah, as I've already mentioned, I believe the Elven units are a trap. They make you think, oh, if it works for Gondor, it'll work for Arnor. Wrong. As I've already said, yes, they are sub-factions, but they are nothing alike. They really are nothing alike. Do not consider Gondor to be like... Do not consider playing Gondor the same way you would play Arnor, and vice versa. Because that is not how it works.
Arnor must stand.
Gondor really is that different from Arnor,
Stand as your king.
in my opinion.
Arnor must stand.
And the main difference is because of the elves.
Stand as your king.
Because instead of having the Linden Tower, as Gondor, you have signal fires, which give you more militia troops. Whereas with Arnor, you get elite troops and a new hero. Where instead of that, you would get a Aragorn instead. With, well, now you get Aragorn.
I stand as your king.
Yeah, the points, the fact still stands. Going for, trying to rush out elite troops as Gondor, as Gondor, is a mistake. Because your normal troops are sufficient enough.
I stand
But as Arnor, because you don't get your extra militia troops, you have only your basic militia troops from your fortress, you lack the ability to expand out more. And you lack the ability to have a strong start. But in the late game, you have massive potential. Technically, this is the first faction that had a massive difference from late game to early game. Enlargers now technically holds that spot permanent. Well, yeah, now holds that spot because they are a actual full faction which can be played on any map. But Arnor did have that. Well, in the beginning when Arnor was first released and really fleshed out, they really just were uncontested in the late game because of units like the Linden Guardians. The Glorfindel Wind Riders were the best cavalry at the time before. Well, technically they are still one of the best cavalry units, but Rohan I think now beats them because of the few changes that were made. But in most cases, Arnor would have the top spot in cavalry because they had the Enlargers units. But now I think that's a trap. Same with the Linden Guardians. They are a trap. You want to be going for the Dunedain. They are cheaper. You can get more of them. Yes, you don't get the hero Círdan, but you get the hero Arnor instead. And I think Arnor is still better than Círdan in 99% of the time. Because the way Gondor's been changed is the way Arnor's been changed. But again, they are still not the same faction. The changes that have happened to Gondor don't technically benefit Arnor to the same extent as they do Gondor. Because, for example, with the heroes being split off into certain buildings, that affects Arnor 0% of the time. Because unlike with Boromir, your heroes aren't actually locked off by other restrictions. You still technically have them. And for example, with Dol Amroth, you can get foot troops and cavalry, which are both really effective and really good for you. But as Arnor, you don't get those extra foot troops. You miss out on so many different diverse units that help flesh out your early tier units and makes them actually better. But in this situation, your late tier troops are better than your early tier troops, and you should generally rush towards them. Oh, crap, Gandalf, you're about to die. You're not going to die today, Gandalf. No, he is. Ice arrows, damn it. Well, I've got thousands upon thousands of resources that I can't spend because we just have the money. So yeah, we'll just spend all the money again. Blade of Purity.
Arnor must stand. The enemy has settled here already. We've improved the barracks.
Sail to the west. No one gets any experience or such.
Die, you miserable creature. Forward.
Arvidui with his bulwark. Should knock enemies back. Oh, just kills them actually. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, like I said, nothing like Boromir, because that wasn't a like Captain of Gondor ability that gives experience. It's a full heal and armor. It's a defensive ability in most facets, which is always good. And Círdan's died twice. Ugh. Oh, that's a plague. No, it's not. It's a Fellwind, which could have been pointed to a plague in our cry. Oh, there's a wolf in there somewhere. I know because I saw the thing. These already have all their armor, so kind of pointless to do that. But nah, why not? Why not? Get some of our Dunedain so we can start showing off the changes to the Dunedain. And yet another thing with Arnor compared to Gondor is the changes to the power tree and how they affect Arnor. Because normally you would go for the center power to go for your extra powers. But Gondor and Arnor both have, in my opinion, the worst center power, which makes your troops have an extra damage and armor boost. This power, I think, though, for Arnor, has real potential if you go for a militia army. Because that boost, buff with Arathant, the old guy who boosts your infantry, you put them all your infantry into block formation, you give them the extra 15% damage and armor boost from that. That almost doubles this boost. It makes it really good. Plus the Swords of Western's power is terrible. You should never get it. Get the detachment from the Shire. I'm trying to think of other reasons to complain about Arnor compared to why Arnor and Gondor are not the same faction. Kind of running out of things. Need to find more things. I have to stick to my point. What else is there? But yeah, Arnor in general is a elite focus faction, where Gondor is a mix of defense, aggression. They are just breaking down that middle gate. I did not see that. I should have. It's a good thing I have rebuild. Yeah, Dunedain in this, yes, they can get unexpected salvo, but only after you get your hero Carthian to level 5. So you're actually required to get a hero and level them up before your units can get that OP power, which makes them, again, even better in the late game. But you can also get the Faithful of Arnor ability, which gives them the good old arrow volley that they used to have. So Dunedain in this are even better than the Rangers of Ithilien, because of the fact you have an option to get a even more dangerous ability, which can just clean out waves of basic infantry, which Gondor often lacks, unless they have Gandalf. Because without Gandalf, you have, as Gondor, no AoE potential against units like pikes, because you can't use cavalry against pikes. It's pretty dumb. But you have Aragorn for a small AoE. You have Faramir. But basically, all your heroes are focused around keep prolonging the battle for as long as possible. While with Arnor, you don't want the battle to be prolonged. You want the battle to be over as quick as possible, so you can take the damage casually, but then you will be able to come back with a smile on your face with a fully healed army with Bloodline of Numenor, no matter where it is. You will always come back with a fully healed army, which makes Arnor elites even more deadly. Again, because Arnor elites have more health, they're harder to kill. So when they're out of combat, taking no damage, they will heal up more of their health if they were down on lower health totals to begin with. And they would just personally get even more from that power. For example, if the Arnor and Gondor powers were switched, where instead of Gondor having instead of Arnor having this power, you'd have Gandalf the White, for example. Then you have, yes, you get a stronger Gandalf, but Gandalf isn't really that important to this faction. Honestly, I would pick Arvedui, Malbeth, and Arnor over Gandalf. Or to have a better representation, I would have Arafant, Arnor, and Malbeth all together because they're more close to the price of Gandalf. Because they're three separate heroes. One is a very decent melee combatant that buffs all the units around him with abilities that makes them resistant to fear and knockback and level up faster. So again, focusing on getting the most elite of the elite. An elitist faction. Another reason why Arnor is the most elitist faction is because when Arvedui gets the ring, his ability, basically, he rejects all low-ranked, low-blood men of Arnor. For example, like men of Rudauer and Cardolan. Or in this case, our basic barracks infantry. They would be rejected and only praising the elites for their service to him. Whereas Gondor is a massive, massive kingdom filled with many fiefdoms which each give a different facet to the faction. For example, not in this game, but you have Pinethgalen Cavalry, you have Black Reveil Archers, you have Anthelus Pikemen. If you want to go into Divide and Conquer, you have Lebanon Marines, which are more of a seafaring fiefdom, which is another thing about Arnor compared to Gondor. They're not seafaring in the slightest. They are a completely land-based faction. But that's more just lore talk than actual gameplay talk. Yeah, those damn plagues, though, they kind of stop us from going in. Well, to be fair, we're still at the command point cap. We have lost nothing. And we just keep coming back with full health units. Gondor, on the other hand, suffers more from that because they no longer have the basic heal power. Because that was taken away with the power tree change. And also, the fact they don't have an Aragorn. Aragorn completes Gondor in a way. Because he is a very good hero killer. He's a healer that can heal your other heroes. He has the ability to he has the ability to ride a horse as well. Which, oh yeah, and also summon Army of the Dead. All abilities that are completely unique to him, and if they've tried to make a character like that for Arnor, it would not make sense. It would not at all make sense. Let's get the Army of Gondor. I just need pushing power right now. And yet we still haven't lost a single person, by the way. Because we are completely leveled up in strength. And also, unlike with Arnor, Gondor's army power has changed to... You have to wait for their power, because that's kind of how Rohan works. It's film themed. But with the Gondor power, the summon Gondor for Arnor is still the same, because it doesn't make sense to have them wait at a beacon to then be summoned with an even greater force and more heroes. Because it's only King Eomer. It is only Eomer. It doesn't make sense to have more heroes that wouldn't exist in Lord of the Rings lore. So yeah, Arnor in a way has been left undeveloped, only getting some changes that Gondor has received to make them to make them work the same as every other faction, which is obviously fine. If they weren't changed, then they would probably be the strongest faction in the game, and no Arnor map would ever be played, because Gondor as Arnor would be so overpowered with the original actually, I don't know. They might be strong and they might be weaker. I'd say it'd be a mix of both. You'd have some strong buffs, we'd also have some weak weaknesses from these patches. But look at that, level 9 Linden Guardians. No army of Arnor, of Gondor could make such an army. I mean, they could try, because Citadel Guards are really powerful and so are Tower Guard, but the amount of effort you have to put into them, you have to have... First, you need a blacksmith. Second, you need a marketplace. Then you need a barracks. You need to get the blacksmithing. You need to get the iron ore. You need to have all. You have to have these two upgrades, and then you can start getting Citadel Guards. But the amount of effort you have to go through to get those powers is almost not worth it to get those powers, or just to get that one unit. I personally don't like the Palantir Guard or the Citadel Guard. I think they need an overhaul of some kind to make them more. I don't know, just more. Because right now they are just a bit lackluster compared to other elites of other factions, like the Black Guards. They have special abilities that make them more deadly and go to Angmar's caveats. I mean, when I'm thinking about it a bit more, they do kind of go to Gondor and Arnor's caveat of being multifaceted and defensive, because that's what they are. They help protect your fortress they help you protect your buildings with extra armor, and I believe they become invulnerable, or they make a certain building invulnerable when they hit a certain level. So yeah, they are really good. Obviously, siege equipment is the one thing that is not changed. Doesn't make sense for them to change in any way. But they would look exactly the same. They're the same people. They're the same race. They're the same people, technically. Oh no! Also, he was heroes to full health. Yeah, Arnor is so better than Boromir. when you compare them, that power alone makes Arvedui makes Arvedui so strong in comparison to Boromir, which is what it should be. He costs more for starters. He costs an extra 400 more. And he's the king of Arnor. He's technically your second to last hero. Whereas with so yeah, to make a bit more sense out of this, Arvedui is a mix between Aragorn obviously being the king and Boromir being your barracks hero. But Arnor takes the place of both the other half of Boromir and Faramir as a whole. Faramir, not just as a part. I'm also going to make him follow his father. Oh, that's cool. Armor for everyone. You even get a glowy effect. That might help destroy these buildings. And in case they've got an army hiding inside the walls, they don't anymore. Yeah, not as strong as the original Flood, but can't all be perfect. So yeah, Arnor is definitely a faction that, if you like playing the elitist playstyle, which I personally do, I love Arnor. I love Arnor so much. But because of the changes to Gondor, they've kind of fallen off for me, which is why I've kind of put off making a video for them. Because they aren't as good as they don't feel the same way as they used to be before all the other factions came in. Now, because of Enlarged and Lothlorien, I've pulled away from Arnor. They still have a fond place in my heart, because they were always the faction that made me come back to Edain because of the elitist nature of the faction. But the fact they're not a fully fledged faction does kind of makes it doesn't make them as important. That's the right way. It doesn't make them as important as other factions like Gondor. Whatever changes happen to Gondor, Arnor will basically suffer from on a wider scale, not on the small scale, like with heroes and units and such, because they have never really changed. Arnor is still the same as it was when it first came out. Just obviously a few less powers, the formations power existing, Heroes now being locked behind certain buildings. Other than that, they have been exactly the same as when they started. Every change that happens that's specific to Gondor happens to Arnor. I've said that several times now, but I just want to make sure that really settles in. I remember the last time I did the Arnor overview, or did a Arnor overview, it was kind of just me sitting in a fortress against an Angmar. And although it was fun, I'm not going to say that wasn't fun, it was very fun. It definitely didn't show off Arnor compared to Gondor back then, but now, with those small changes, I do actually see the changes. And by the way, this Gondor soldier unit has lived from the very beginning of the video. This is one of our first units, and it's lasted to the very end, or this one, or yeah, one of them has. Yeah, look how quickly these guys have leveled up. Leadership is definitely king with Arnor, whereas Gondor, it's not so much. It's having the replaceable units. So yeah, Arnor elitist, Gondor all rounder, really good. So hope you've all enjoyed this. As I've already said several times now and kind of hinted at in videos, I will be starting a Total War campaign soon. I haven't decided on what mod to play on, if I'm going to do Medieval 2, which would be either Divide and Conquer or DCI, or if I just go to Total War Warhammer and have some fun there. But I don't want to play Warhammer so much. I mainly want to focus on Lord of the Rings. That's enough for now. Until next time, everyone. Ta-ta for now.